Hello everyone, all 22 and a few film review, giving you guys the next episode of Draft Reps, my draft class analysis series where we dive deep into all 32 classes, letting you guys know how I feel about every pick according to my big board, who's left on the board positionally, is it a team need, is it a scheme fit. We're going to be talking about paths for starting for every player, as well as kind of immediate roster roles if I see that for the player. So if you want to learn more about the Tampa Bay Bucs that we're going to be talking about today, or you want to learn anything else about the other 31 classes, make sure you stick around, subscribe, go through the channel, do whatever you got to do to make sure you don't miss out on your favorite teams as we try to round out the 2025 draft season here. Like I said, we're going to be talking about the Bucs today, my 7th overall class for the NFL, a very, very good class. I really enjoyed this one. A very interesting class, only 6 picks. They doubled up at 3 positions, no trade compensation anywhere. They just sat pick for every pick. A very interesting class. An A-, they get a 3.29333 grade for me. That numerical grade coming from an equation that I made for you guys. That way you guys could have a more concrete feel about how I feel about all 32 draft classes in this draft season. So you guys can kind of stack the same letter grades or differing letter grades, see how far different classes are to one another. Kind of just a fun exercise given to you guys, an extra thing we can come back to see where I was right, see where I was wrong, see what I can learn from. The video is more about the analysis and the grades per pick, but let's get into it here. A very short class, like I said, 6 picks. They start off with Emeka Egbuka, a wide receiver out of Ohio State. Then go Benjamin Morrison, a cornerback out of Notre Dame. Then Jacob Parrish, a cornerback out of Kansas State. David Walker, an edge out of Central Arkansas. And then Elijah Roberts, an edge out of SMU. And then Tez Johnson, a wide receiver out of Oregon. Like I said, they doubled up at 3 different positions. Very interesting drafting strategy for them, but I did really like all of the players they got here. I can't say I dislike any single one of the players they got here, or I dislike any of the value they got for any of them. Very good class in my opinion. Starting off with Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver out of Ohio State. Taken at 19, no trade compensation. Like I said, they didn't move at any point in this class. He was 17 on my big board, so in terms of true value, this is A grade in terms of just true value for me. Was my 4th wide receiver on the board and the 3rd one taken off the board. Just a very good, solid receiver. It seemed like everyone kind of had a consensus opinion about Emeka Egbuka, just in terms of where you put him in your rankings or your big board, just kind of determined how you value these types of receivers. These really solid slot to Z type receivers that do their best work in the slot but can flex out to the Z. He definitely has the chops to be able to do it. Not an outworldly athlete, but an above average athlete. Very strong hands, loves to get after it in the run. Great at catching over the middle, runs very crisp routes. Just a very solid receiver. Probably never going to be a top 5 guy in his career, but can definitely be a top half of the league type of guy. He can be a top 16 receiver. He has the chops to do it. The only reason this doesn't get A for me and gets an A- is because I think he is a little bit redundant to how they would use Jalen McMillan, a wide receiver they drafted last year. And I believe it was the 3rd round or 2nd round. It was a day 2 pick. So honestly, not bad draft capital at all. I thought that he was going to kind of fill into this role and take over the Chris Godwin role. It seems like Emeka Egbuka is going to be doing that now. I still don't hate it because Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are going to be off this team sooner than later. I wouldn't be surprised if both of these guys are gone after this year or after the next. So you got to prepare for your receiver room, going to be completely reshaped when those guys leave. Grabbing Emeka Egbuka is insane, just like planning ahead for this team, especially because I think he slots into that Chris Godwin role super well. Can play, kind of tight to the line, off as a wing, does a lot of crossing routes, a lot of intermediate routes, a lot of dirty work, gets the ball in space as well. I think that is a great role for Emeka Egbuka. Like I said, I thought that's what they would do with Jalen McMillan, so it's a little bit redundant. But in terms of planning for the future and in terms of true value, it's still a very good pick and a very good player. The 6'1", 202-pound receiver, going to be 23 during his rookie season, put up a 9.72 RAS. Very nice tester. Ran in the 4.4s, very nice jumps, not bad agility, is just a very nice athlete. 81 receptions on 106 targets this year for Ohio State, 1,011 yards, 10 touchdowns, 12.5 yards per catch, but 5 drops. Was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school and a 2-time third-team Big Ten selection in 2023, was also a second-team selection in 2022. So you'd like to see the kind of pedigree coming out of high school, continuing that production throughout college. You expect him to be able to translate this game to the NFL, just kind of pick up right where he left off. Also has a returning background for Ohio State, more when he was, less used as their number one target, but does have a returning background, which you do like to see, some added value. Like I said, an A- for me, not an A, just because not their biggest need in the world, in my opinion. It is a need for the future, so I can't hate it, but I also think he is a little bit redundant to Jalen McMillan, who they just drafted last year on day 2. Still, an A- is still a good grade, still a great player. I expect him to play a significant amount of snaps for this team. They're pretty pass-heavy offense. They like to use their receivers, and Emeka's going to get used a lot just because he is a very, very solid, sturdy option. Their next pick, they go Benjamin Morrison, a cornerback out of Notre Dame with the 51st pick, the 21st pick of the second round. Again, no trade compensation on this one. This got an A- for me. Not a bad value at all. He was 58th on my big board, taken at 53. There's just a few guys that I definitely liked ahead of him that went later than him, like a Trey Amos, like a Savone Ravel. He was my 8th cornerback on the board. He was the 5th one taken off the board. And also, forgot to mention Darian Porter's name in that as well. There's just kind of a few guys I thought were safer options. Now, this is an interesting player, 100%. Only played in 6 games this year. The tape this year wasn't exceptional before he was injured. Still a very good player and still a 2nd to 3rd round value in terms of tape this year. But the tape last year was much, much better. He put on a very, very good 2023 season in terms of tape. So if you get that kind of player, then this is definitely worth a much higher pick than this. But if you're getting the 2024 tape version, especially after the injury, it is pretty concerning to me. So not bad value, but in terms of just who else is on the board, even though this was a very injury-riddled cornerback class, I think there is a few safer options for them to take. But like I said, if they can get the 2023 version of Benjamin Morrison, then this is an A+. This is definitely worth this pick, and he's going to work out very well in this room. I do like them taking another outside corner, especially for this room. They have Jameel Dean and Zion McCollum, who definitely aren't bad on the outside. Outside of that, not a whole lot of guys that are super head-turning or you're slating to start in this room in the very near future. They have Josh Hayes, who was a 6th-round pick 2 years ago, and they also have Bryce Hall, who played some decent snaps for the Jets earlier in his career, but still, those guys don't really keep you from drafting anybody, and if one of your 2 outside guys goes down, then you're definitely concerned about the depth of that room. So getting another corner for this team, I think, is great for them. It's an A- again, or an A- for me. Again, not a bad grade at all. Just for his injury history and how the tape looked this year compared to last year, I think there was a couple more safer options, but not a bad player at all. A 6-foot, 193-pound corner, going to be 21 through his rookie season. Didn't put up an RAS, didn't have the test ring measurables due to that injury. In 6 games, had 4 PBUs, 58.4 passer rating allowed, and 20 tackles at Notre Dame. A freshman All-American, had 6 interceptions in his freshman year for Notre Dame. Looked absolutely insane coming out as a freshman. 6 interceptions for anybody is an insane number, but as a true freshman is absolutely insane. A 3-year starter for Notre Dame in his 3-year career. Like I said, if he hits his upside, this is worth way more than the 53rd pick. Just due to the tape this year, due to the injury history, I think there was a couple safer bodies, and bodies that fit well for this room too. Now he does fit well for this room. A very, very smart zone attacking corner. I don't really love him in a press man style system, but if he can play in soft squat, if he can play in bail, if he can play in off, this guy has great eyes, a good trigger, very physical at the catch point, has nice ball skills, 6 interceptions as a freshman. Definitely has some nice ball skills. Not afraid to get after the run, not the best run defense tape. He's not the most willing in the world, not the best tackler, but when the ball comes his way, he's not afraid to get down there and try. A very, very solid corner. Again, not a bad value, 58 on my board, an A- for me. Their next pick, they go Jacob Parrish, a cornerback out of Kansas State, with the 84th pick in the class, the 20th pick of the 3rd round, no trade compensation. I gave this an A+. Now, they are double dipping on corner 2 rounds in a row, but Jacob Parrish is a slot-only type guy, especially in my opinion. He played outside and inside at Kansas State, but on the outside when he got into press situations or when he had to kind of flip his hips to burn deep On the outside, he struggled a lot with the physicality throughout the rep and would get burnt deep in that sense. Now, he is a good athlete, ran a lot faster than I thought he would at 4.35. So it kind of made, I didn't really see that recovery out of him. I thought he was a much quicker than fast player, a very sticky player, one of the stickiest corners in this class in terms of just man stickiness, and a very feisty player in the slot too. He loves to get in and defend the run, get in off the edge and fit in. He's not scared to do that at all. I love him as a slot player. Was my 9th corner, and my 11th corner was the 11th corner taken off the board. So positional value, I think it's great. He was my 66th player on my board, taken at 84. So in terms of that value, I think it's great. Like I said in my top 10 corner video, this is a guy that should be able to slide in round 2 due to his true talent, because he is a kind of slotted only guy, someone that you're not going to trust on the outside. He is going to fall, and he did fall to the 3rd to a team that he's going to fit in super well in. Now they have a nice kind of trio of safeties in Anton Whitfield Jr., Tyke Smith, and Christian Izzian. Tyke Smith, kind of a slot safety coming out of the draft, did a lot of good damage in the slot and does some good damage in the slot for them. They can rotate their safeties around a lot, especially with Antoine Winfield Jr. He's a freak. But this just adds some more variability to that room. It allows them to be a lot more flexible with their safety room, and allows them to have a lot more depth in their nickel and in their overall corner room as well. If Tyke Smith goes down or if someone else goes down too, you're not super worried about your safety room as well. Just fits in with this team super, super well. I think it's a great value, an A+ pick for me. I thought he should have went a lot earlier than this. Thought he was going to go kind of according to the NFL at this value, but in terms of my board, he was worth a lot higher of a pick than this. I think it is a great, great value. A 5'10", 191-pound corner, going to be 21 in his rookie season, put up an 8.82 RAS, mostly held down by his height and his weight. This guy is a super sticky, very nice athlete. Quick trigger, nice in zone and man, a little bit better in man than zone in my opinion, but a very, very, very good player, just not someone you want to trust on the outside consistently. Had 1 interception, 7 PBUs, 73.3 passer rating allowed when targeted in coverage, and 50 tackles and 2.5 TFLs for Kansas State on the season. A 2-time Big 12 honorable mention in his 2 years starting at Kansas State. A good player, man. I really like this pick for them. Just fits in super well on their defense. Their next pick, they go David Walker, an edge out of Central Arkansas, with the 121st pick, the 19th pick up the 4th round. I like this pick a lot for them, honestly. I thought this was around David Walker's kind of range. I thought he was more of a 4th round type guy. Really happy to see him get drafted, in the 4th round for him. Happy he didn't fall. I was a little bit concerned, due to him being kind of 6', 6'1", playing at the FCS level, that he might fall a bit. The 4th round is great value for him. He is a very, very fun player and fits this defense very well. Now they have Yaya Diaby, and they just brought in Hassan Reddick, both are kind of fun edge rushers. Both definitely fit what they want to do in this edge room. And then they also have Chris Braswell, who they took in the 2nd round last year. So they kind of have 3 edges kind of already slotted out in this room. But this is much more of a project guy and a much more of a role fit type guy at 6 foot, 263. He's going to fit super well for this room, kind of fitting all over, up and down the line, playing the 4-eye, playing the 5, playing the edge, being used in loops and stunts and twists. They're going to have a lot of fun with him on this defense, and they're kind of attacking 3-4 heavy blitzing storm type of scheme. He fits perfectly in with that. Now, this gets an I like it pick. A quick reminder as we get into the day 3 selections. Day 3 grades are on a different scale than day 1 and 2. Day 1 and 2 on it are weighed heavier. They're on a letter grade basis as teams draft more for BPA. They draft according to their big board and more for BPA according to need. Day 3, much more about roles and kind of upgrading aspects of positions, kind of just adding where a position room might be a little bit weaker, whether you're getting a deep threat in your room if you don't have a lot of juice in your wide receiver room, getting a 330, 340 pound nose tackle if you've been lacking against the run, drafting a safety, converting them to linebacker if they're a bigger bodied safety to help the pass coverage out of your linebacker room if you got a bunch of early down type guys, that kind of sort of thing. Going to be weighed less. The vision is not really in terms of true big board talent, much more fitting guys for your room and fitting guys for your scheme. going to be graded on and I love it, I like it, I see the vision, or an I don't get it type of basis. I will be describing why each pick is what and how I feel about every pick, but if you want a more concrete definition, check out the description, as well as if you have questions on anything, should be down in the description. If not, come yell at me in the comments, but should be all down there as well. Come comment in general. I love talking to you guys about ball. I love hearing you guys' opinion, giving you guys my opinion, all that good stuff. But yeah, David Walker, and I like it. Really, really like the value here. I think it is good value for him. I think it is a good scheme fit. Probably not going to compete for a starting job right away, but if he really flashes and can translate what he did at the FCS level to this team, then he can compete for that edge 3 job right away. And even if he doesn't, he's going to get snaps this season. He's going to compete for snaps because he is such a good scheme fit, and he fits the role of a situational pass rusher super well for this team. Like I said, they can move him kind of up and down the line and use him in a different kind of stunts and twists and blitzes, as he has that athleticism to be able to do that. Very, very fun player. At 6 foot 263, going to be 25 during his rookie season. A much older prospect. 8.63 RAS, definitely held down by his height, but still a very nice tester, especially at that thickness. You don't expect a lot of athleticism, but he's got it. He's got some movability. At 10.5 sacks, 8 hurries, 23 TFLs, 69 tackles, 6 PBUs, and 4 forced fumbles at Central Arkansas. It's at the FCS level, but that is outworldly production, and that's what you want to look for at the FCS level if you're trying to translate that to the league. Was a 2-time FCS first-team All-American selection in 2022 and 2023. Was an FCS All-American and a Conference Defensive Player of the Year selection all 3 years at Central Arkansas. Insane. All-American and Defensive Player of the Year for his respective conference all 3 years at Central Arkansas. Crazy work. Also spent 2 years at Southern Arkansas before Central Arkansas. That's why he is a much older prospect. But someone with all the accolades and production you can possibly get from the FCS level. A very nice scheme fit for this defense. A very juiced up situational pass rusher with very interesting frame. Absolutely just an I like it pick for them. I think this is as solid as you can get for this spot in the 4th round. Their next pick, they go Elijah Roberts, an edge at SMU, with the 157th pick, the 21st pick of the 5th round. Again, doubling up on edge, but this is more of a kind of scheme role dependent edge and another perfect role for them, honestly. This got an I love it pick. I think this is exceptional value for Elijah Roberts. I had an Elijah Roberts graded as a third, like a late 3rd to 4th, more of a 4th round type guy, but still getting him in the 5th, especially towards the back end of the 5th, absolutely great in my opinion. Like I said, much more of a role type guy at 6'4", 285. He's much more of a guy you want to play as a 4-eye, as a 5, not a true down-to-down edge. Doesn't have the athleticism and the bend to be a consistent down-to-down edge rusher at the NFL level, but can absolutely dominate some guards because he has some crazy power, a very nice bull rush, and a very nice stab. Needs to work on more counter moves off of it and really rounding out his pass rush tool belt, but a very solid run defender and a very, very powerful rusher. Fits super well with this team. If you think about Logan Hall, who is kind of exactly that type of like body frame, that type of mold of a really big, oversized edge rusher who can slide inside. That's what they've been using Logan Hall as. Fits so well in with this team because I don't think they are super enamored with Logan Hall. He hasn't been the most productive player. Doesn't seem like they want him here long term. Would not be surprised in the slightest if Elijah Roberts is playing that exact same role for this team next year and starting for this team next year. And for the 5th, that is a great value. Again, and I love it. A perfect scheme fit, getting their other type of big-bodied interior / edge to go with their other smaller interiors. You know, they have their giant nose in Vita Vea, but they also like their kind of lighter guys like Elijah Cansey. They're more situational pass rusher, kind of lighter, penetrating 3-4 types. Elijah Cansey and, you know, David Walker, perfect molds for that. And then your big-bodied, kind of oversized guys that can play inside and out. Your Logan Hall, your Elijah Roberts. They just drafted perfectly for their scheme, in my opinion, with these last 2 picks. And with those 2 corner picks as well, honestly. A 6'4", 285-pound edge rusher, like I said, going to be 24 towards the later end of his rookie season. The 6.83 RAS, Not a great athlete, not a terrible athlete. It's not like he's an inept athlete, you don't want him on the field, but just in terms of being a true down-to-down edge, the size and the movement due to that size definitely kind of hinders him a bit. You want to play him in more of a 4-eye, 5-tech role on the line, not really kind of outside on the edge as a 6, a 7, or a wide 9. Had 7.5 sacks, 11 hurries, 11 TFLs, 25 tackles, 1 PBU, and 2 forced fumbles on the season. A 2024 ACC honorable mention and a 2023 second-team ACC selection during his 2 years at SMU. Spent his prior 3 years at Miami, so you'd like to see him coming into a new situation, just producing very well. A very nice player, in my opinion. Like I said, thought you should have went more towards the early 4th, maybe possibly slid into the 3rd. I do understand why he falls because he is more scheme dependent. He is much more of a role fit. But for this team, perfect role fit. They get him in the 5th. I absolutely love it for this team. Their next pick, they go Tez Johnson, a wide receiver out of Oregon, getting their 3rd double up of the class. Hard to double up 3 times with only 6 picks, but very interesting strategy for them. Getting this with pick 235, pick 19 of the 7th round. This got an IC division. Now, they do kind of have 6 guys that I think are pretty safe to make this roster. You know, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. I would be surprised if they're not on the roster to start this season. They drafted Emeka Egbuka in the 1st. We talked about Jalen McMillan, who got drafted on day 2 last year. They also have Trey Palmer, who was a 6th round pick. I believe it was in 2023. He's not a terrible guy to have in the room. And then they also bring in Sterling Shepard recently. So they have 6 guys who are pretty solid pieces there, you know, for their respective roles. Now, the Bucs did roster 7 receivers last year, so there's definitely a spot for Tez to make this roster, but it's going to be an uphill battle for him. He's going to be competing with a lot of camp bodies, and it's a 7th round pick. It's not like he's a lock, so he is going to have to come out and show out, especially for his size. Now, in terms of true talent, Tez Johnson is much higher than this, much closer to a 4th to 5th round guy, but a real size outlier at 5'10", 154. I weighed 154 during my freshman year of high school. Now, I was playing linebacker, so it's a much different story, but like, I was that exact height at 5'10", 154 in high school. That is not NFL playing weight at all. Very, very, very hard to see these guys with, or like very hard to translate these guys with much kind of outlier frames coming in. Emmanuel Forbes, taken in the 1st round by the Washington Commanders a few years ago. When he was coming out, he was a real size outlier. I definitely didn't like that 4-corner because you're going to have to be defending the run. You're going to have to deal with guys in press. He was coming out in the low 170s. I think it was like the high 160s, low 170s. Tez Johnson, out wide receiver, you can get away with being a little bit lighter than a corners are, especially if you play in the slot. You're kind of protected. You're always off the ball. You're not dealing with on-the-line stuff. But at 154, it's really, really hard. You know, you're not going to really see him as an outside guy unless you can keep him off the line. You don't have to worry about him in press. And in the slot, can you really, you know, consistently lean on him to make catches over the middle of the field? Now, he can be a great player in space, be a good returner for you. He does have a returning background. But in the slot, you got to be tough. And it's, even if he is tough at 154, he's going to get moved around and batted around very, very easily. It's kind of concerning. That's why he falls this low. Hopefully he can pack on some weight, pack on some play strength, and, you know, prove people wrong. I really hope he proves me wrong, 100%. He is a very fun player to watch. It's just really hard for these guys that are very, very, you know, massive size outliers to come in and be very productive, especially earlier rather than later. And the fact that he was taken to this team in the 7th round when they have 6 guys that are already in decent spots to make the roster, he just doesn't have a clear path to start. Like, if he was taken in the 7th round to a different team that didn't have a lot of guys that are real locks to make the roster, or they have, like, room to compete for their receiver 3 to 4 spot, this would probably be more of an I like it, I love it type of pick. But coming here, where he is going to have a real uphill battle to try to get playing time, if he doesn't flash in camp, he might not make the roster, or he might just be kept on as like the 6th, 7th guy, not really see any at field, and then by the time his contract comes up, he's not going to get a second contract because he is such an outlier and he doesn't have any production to show for it. So just a very, very tough situation for him, in my opinion. I really like the value for him. I just really wish that he went to a different room this is the round where you try to take these project type of guys, you take chances. So I don't hate it for this team. I do think he has a chance to make the roster. Like I said, they did roster 7 receivers last year, so it's not out of the question. But in terms of trying to find playing time and finding a role, it's definitely going to be an uphill battle for him, and he needs all the help he can get with his situation. Like I said, a 5'10", 154-pound receiver coming out, going to be 23 in his rookie season, put up a 7.3 RAS, very, very held back by those height and weight measurables, but wasn't the most insane tester outside of that as well. Had 83 receptions on 101 targets for Oregon this last season, 898 yards, 10 touchdowns, 10.8 yards per catch, only 3 drops, which you definitely love to see, and 1 punt returning touchdown. Adds special teams value as well. You definitely like to see that for him. But I don't know how much I want to keep them back there as a punt returner, because he can be getting clean back there, if he doesn't fair catch at the right time, or if someone just, flies in there and just doesn't hold back, it can look pretty bad. A 2024 second-team Big Ten wide receiver and return specialist, which you love to see, and a 2-year starter at Oregon, spent his prior 3 years at Troy. A very good value in terms of true talent, and a pretty solid pick in terms of just overall picking value. But for this room, it's a very tough pick for me. It gets an IC division. This was the Bucks class. Like I said, a very good class to me, an A-, a 3.2933. Had a lot of trouble not bringing this up into the A's, but the grade kind of gets held back numerically because, they doubled up at 3 positions with only 6 picks, and I do think they had some other needs. Even if they aren't super pressing needs, I definitely would have loved them to take some interior depth at O-line, anywhere in the interior or at tackle, just O-line depth in general. I'm not absolutely sold as Ben Bredesen as their kind of left guard starting, so just someone to compete in that room. And then even, depth at safety wouldn't have been a terrible choice in my opinion. I talked about their trio that's not bad at all, but outside of those 3 guys, there is kind of no one really else in that room that turns my head, or I'm like, oh yeah, that's a developmental guy, or that's a guy that you can trust his depth. Really would have loved to, maybe see them draft someone else at a different position, not just double up at 3. That's what kind of holds it back a little bit, also because of the Tess Johnson pick. But still a very good class and a very good grade. Like I said, my 7th class, still a top 10 class, still an A-. I absolutely loved every player they got in this class. Hard to really poke a hole in any spot in this class except for, drafting your 7th receiver. But still has a real chance to make this roster, so can't hate it at all. A very nice class. If you guys enjoyed, thank you. I appreciate you guys listening to me ramble about the Bucks here. Probably going to be a much shorter video, one of my shorter draft wraps for this whole series, because they only had 6 picks. But a very fun video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun talking about that. I really like these guys. I think in terms of vision, they definitely had a vision and they executed it almost perfectly according to their scheme. Tough to see them only draft 2 offensive players and 2 of them be wide receivers. But hopefully their offense can, continue to keep humming and they can just pick up where they left off last season. If you guys liked it, please let me know. Let me know with a comment or a like. If not, I appreciate you for sticking around this long anyways. It means the world to me. Thank you guys, and I hope you have a great day.